Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Bitchuation Room podcast live stream. My name is Francesca Fiorentini. It's so good to have you here with us live, with us from the future, with us from the past. Maybe all the ghosts are here, is what I'm trying to say. So very, very, very happy to have you here on the second. God, it feels like it's been way longer in 2023 than it has actually been, but the second week of the new year. Hope everyone is fulfilling their resolutions to eat more bullshit. That's right. Just indulge. Indulge. Life is short. That's all I have to say. And that's coming from someone who doesn't even really like fast food very much. In fact, I would say skip the fast food. Just go to Trader Joe's Snacks. That's all you got to do. So excited today to have comedian Josh Gondleman on the show for the entire show and the bonus, as well as writer and activist Max Berger, who is going to be breaking down what the hell happened with Sam Bankman-Fried or Fried, or I don't know how to, it doesn't matter how to sound his name, say his name anymore, because he is kind of a non-entity. However, this crypto bro is potentially a warning shot as to what we need to look out for in terms of political contributions and super PACs and the financialization of fictional money, things people just invented out of thin air. As someone who doesn't know a lot about the story, I'm very, very excited and curious to dig into it, and also terrified. So make sure you are liking the like button and you are giving the podcast 5 stars if you're listening on iTunes. You know that helps people find the show. Write us a sweet little review. I'll always appreciate a review. And of course, if you want access to the bonus episode, which I'll be doing with Josh, about Mr. Afro Man. I don't know if it's Mr. Afro Man, the musician who of Because I Got High fame, if you guys know that song. I was gonna go to work, but then I got high. You know that song? Great song. He's got a new hit out, and based on not smoking weed, but the police in Ohio raiding his home over weed. And he's got a lot of just great camera footage, and I want to talk about it. He kind of breaks down what happened to him, and so Josh and I are going to listen to the song and delve into it. It's pretty amazing. So patreon.com/bitchuation room if you want to get access to that and access to a backlog of all of our shows. Extended time. Last week I talked about Brazil. Today we're going to talk about Brazil on the main show because, of course. And you get 20% off all merch. Bitchuationroom.com is where you get that. But that's automatic. There are other perks there. Recommendations for guests. AMAs, which I've sort of stopped doing because nobody has any questions for me. Because, we wanted to do, I may bring out some more books at some point. We're going to do a rundown of the books on my bookshelf that I haven't read since college. Just kidding. But in case you didn't know, y'all, the Bitchuation Room is live, like actually physically present. Sunday, January 22nd at 8 p.m. at Piano Fight Bar in San Francisco, part of SF Sketchfest. My guests are going to be John Idarola of The Damage Report, Robert Evans of Behind the Bastards podcast, and comedian and regular contributor to this show, Nato Green. It's going to be so good. I'm trying to think about, like, what are we going to do? What are we going to start with? We're going to do some stand-up, you know? It should be very, very fun. So get your tickets, sfsketchfest.com. please support the show. Come out. Everyone will be safe. We'll be masked. But Mama will be having a cocktail. And now when I say Mama, it actually applies because I am one. And it's not weird. Also, if you want to tip the show, TBR-live on Venmo, TBR live on Cash App, accept any and all little sweet tips from the Frantifa. And with that, let's see if this is correct. Let's jump into this, guys. What's crawled up your ass and died today? Okay. This is What Are You Bitching About? I'm seeing some comments that people think the new music, which is by DJ Real, a good friend of mine, is too serious. But shouldn't it be in these times, right? Shouldn't we take ourselves just a little bit more seriously? Don't you think we should cancel more people? I'm just kidding. No, look, you guys, I like the music. I think it's got to have a little news edge. Yes, it's a pretty big pendulum swing from Kevin MacLeod's crazy clown piano. Maybe we can drunkify it at some point, but no, I like it. You got to have a little bit of look. If we want to make this show, if I'm going to pitch this show to HBO eventually, you got to have some. It's got to be the music first. Anyway, what are you guys bitching about? Okay, I've got a few things. I could bitch about like my problems with certain leftists, but I don't want to talk shit today. No, I'm bitching about my kid. And if you're triggered by baby news, just you can go fuck off. But my baby turned 3 months. Very exciting. 3 months. We made it. We have like a window here where she's going to be like pleasant and adorable until she reaches some 4-month awful sleep regression thing, which we're hoping to stave off. All of this you might think is boring because like I don't have a kid. What do I care? You were once a baby. And everyone was brought into this world the same way. You didn't get to skip and just become a skinny jean fucking 32-year-old fuck boy. All right. At one point, you were a little baby and you had your stupid ass sleep regression and your mom was tired and fed you anyway and was like, you just ate, but now you're crying on me and blah. So anyway, that's my excuse. What I'm bitching about is here we are. We're getting to the 3 months mark. You tell me, how was it in your family, your mom, your parent? My mom went back to work at 3 months, right? And a lot of people, because if you have a full-time job, if you're lucky, you get 3 months. That's maternity leave in this country is 3 months. Parental leave is 3 months in most places. And it's not enough. It's fucking terrible. I can't imagine going to work every single day, driving into an office at this stage. Why? Not only because it's super early, they're still so small, they're still so helpless, they still need you. If you want to keep nursing, it's so much easier than pumping and pumping and pumping. I can't afford childcare, so I'd have to have someone come and like stay with the baby, right? But on top of that, the baby's just getting real cute. Like in this moment of, the first couple months, they're just like, feed me, I'm blah, like feed, sleep, barely eyes open, blah. But like, now they're like, oh, I'm imitating your sounds. Mama got jokes. You got funny faces. I'm responding. And then you have to be like, bye, I'm going to go work for my wage slave lord, whatever, my awful wage slave job. I'm going to make content for BuzzFeed or whatever, you know what I mean? One of the jobs that I will eventually seek when I give up on this whole go it alone thing, you know what I'm saying? I'll be like, hey, BuzzFeed, could you hire me? No, but what I'm saying is it's fucked. And in other countries, you get it 6 months, you get a year. I believe it. What is it in Denmark? It's like, why don't you take 5 years? That's not a Danish accent, but you know what I'm saying. Take a full 5. Oh, yes, we'll be paying you. I want that, guys. We deserve it. We wonder, look, yes, gun control, but just give us parental leave. I guarantee you fewer mass shooters. Okay, depends on the parent who they're spending time with, but the point is most likely fewer mass shooters. More cuddles, fewer mass shooters. We need paid parental leave for much longer. And finally, I'll just say, and this is on a serious note, given COVID and everything, you know who's left the workforce to take care of their kids? Moms. Moms have left in droves. Women generally, and moms more particularly, have left the workforce. So Republicans are getting their fucking way, right? All they want is for the women and moms to be back in the house, back in the kitchen, and then suddenly, I don't know, their dicks are going to increase like an inch, right? Isn't that how it works? It's like then you make the pot pie for them, you raise their kids, and their dicks grow an inch. Have I demonetized this show yet? I think so. All right. Let me move on and bring in my guest. He spent 5 years at Last Week Tonight with John Oliver and was the head writer for Jesus and Marrow. He's also the author of the book Nice Try, and his debut stand-up special People Pleaser is out now. The guy has so much going for him. Josh Gondleman.
Thank you. Thanks so much. So nice to see you.
Nice to see you, and a very fly sweater. For those of you,
thank you.
that's very cute. I want that one.
Thank you. Since Jesus and Marrow, and thanks for the welcomes in the comments. Since Jesus and Marrow unfortunately ended, I've been mostly focusing on sweater wearing. So I feel like I've been doing pretty well.
Very important. I love that. It's
Thank you.
Reminds me of like a reductress headline of like woman quits job to track packages full time.
Oh yeah, I love reductress. They're so funny.
So good. And not a lie. Definitely. I'm like, and where is my package?
Yeah.
Where's my new sweater?
Mm-hmm.
Josh, what are you bitching about this fine Tuesday?
So I have a pretty hack complaint, which is I'm gonna complain about airlines. Which look, it's if they wanted us to stop complaining about it, they would be better, and they haven't been, and they're bad in new ways, which I think is like they're changing the game. So I think it's incumbent on us to continue to grouse about them. I don't know like if it's just that I'm older and like get achy faster, but it feels like the situation is like truly worse than it's been in my lifetime, with the exception of just after 9/11 when airports just did whatever they wanted, and we were like, yeah, well, we're living in fear, you just do what you got to do, which was also a bad time. But this is bad in different ways. Like it's gone from like complaints about airlines, right, to like, oh, the food is small. That's what we used to complain about, comedians talking about airplanes. But now it's like the whole experience of air travel is a microcosm of what goes wrong when the government props up giant companies with incentives to serve shareholders instead of customers, right? Like it's a different kind of complaint. It feels like every flight is oversold. There's not room for everybody's bags, so they're already mad at you for that because everyone's bringing their bags onto the plane because you have to pay so much to check them. And now on some airlines you have to pay to bring a carry-on bag, and it's just like they're really squeezing everything they can out of us, right? And it's just like
meanwhile first class first class gets like bigger and bigger and bigger, and all the premiums, you know. And meanwhile, like the other, like by the way, Gareth Reynolds, who was on last week, just scooped you on this exact complaint, but it's very apropos because of we're on the other side of this Southwest meltdown. And so I was bitching also. He's refused to take airlines. He's just driving everywhere now to all of his shows, which is amazing and hard. It takes a lot of time. But like, just kind of like, I'm not going to give these fools any more money because and we all know they're just buying back their stock. They're overinflating it. But like, also the overselling of flights, meanwhile, you're like, you get to the flight and they're like, would you like $3,000 to switch your flight? And you're like, no.
I mean, I've seen it start at like 200 and you're like, come on. But this is, you see it, right? Like even on a flight where the first class isn't like especially luxurious, you know, it's just bigger seats that are like the size of a person that you could sit in. It's still like a ratio of like 2 in first class to 3. So like so once you get past first class, they're like, you're 2/3 of what a rich person is to us.
No, exactly. And speaking of babies, I saw this babies and also people with disabilities. Like first class should just be for people who physically need more room. For whatever reason, they use a wheelchair, which we know, we've seen the horror stories, we've heard the horror stories, we've friends who've like had horror stories of being treated like cattle because they use wheelchairs,
Mhm.
or have some other necessity and or and disability. And then parents, like everyone hates a screaming baby. And like if
Yeah.
you gave the parents a little bit more space, maybe
Yep.
you wouldn't have a screaming baby and you wouldn't have to be next to that baby. Just put them in the first class or the place with more space. Anyway, and give everyone a little bit more. It's just there's
I
so much.
This is my conspiracy theory
Yes.
because of how close the quarters are, I
Mhm.
really have trouble, like, reading physically a book now on a plane, and
You
so
do that? Wow.
I think this is well, I did yesterday. I
You can't
finished a book that
even
I'd started, and
nice.
it's physically just, like, I don't wanna be in someone else's space, that's rude. I don't want to I can't, like, lean back because there's no space there, so I think the airlines are trying to make us dumber by making the seats smaller. That's my full-on conspiracy theory.
Right, you can't even extend your arms to read. They're just yeah, that was
Yep.
the thing in Wall-E that we missed, was that actually
Yeah,
they were
screens being put too
screens
close to
were
your
right
face
here.
for you to physically read. So that's my conspiracy theory. I'm sorry that I duplicated a complaint. I have plenty of other things to complain about, but
No.
just yesterday that was mine. And it's also like it's such a prominent thing, right? It's like a business where there is no incentive for them to do better, and then when you ask anything of them, not the customer service, but I don't want to complain about like individual employees who are not profiting from this system, but
Right.
like the airlines top down attitude is like, oh, we screwed up. Oh, isn't that cute? You know what I mean? It's like, you want to get where you're going, where you about to get to, oh, cry about it. And I just feel like it's so infuriating that businesses are allowed to be run that way, and there's like, unless you're gonna do what Gareth does and just drive, there's like there's so
No.
little way to compensate.
Absolutely, and I do think we need to support, someone who actually worked for an airline listens to this show, and I don't wanna call them out because I believe it
Mhm.
was a private message, but, like, we have to support unions, and we have to
Yeah,
support the airline workers' unions, in
absolutely.
all aspects, and also the pilots. Like, we've seen ever since I learned about how awful pilots are on commercial flights
Mhm.
are treated and their horrible schedules. I'm one of those people, like, I thank them really enthusiastically
Yeah.
leaving. I'm like, "No, no, thank you." Like, and even the shorter flights are even more, like,
Mhm.
are shittier to the pilot schedules. And anyway, just like we just yeah, they need to go on fucking strike. And when they do, because they will, we all need to support it. We all need to remember that this is actually a good reason to have my flight delayed, is airline workers and yeah, to I'm forgetting.
I think you're muted. I lost your audio for a moment. I think you're muted. Yeah.
How long have I been muted? I
Just
was
the last
saying
5 or 6 seconds. Now again.
guys, I'm having audio trouble. Plug trouble.
Plug trouble.
Give me
Oh, yep, going on and off again. All right. Well, it's the Gondleman show now, and I've got this. We're taking a whole new direction.
guys, yes, yeah, make it fun on the show, man. So what's happening is my, precarious plugs are coming out, and then it automatically mutes me, so let me know if that happens again. But let's move on for now.
Please.
We've got a lot to cover this week, and while, I am not getting self-muted by my computer that hates me, here's a few stories. After 15 rounds of votes, Representative Kevin McCarthy, that's how you say it. After 15 rounds of votes, Kevin McCarthy was successfully voted in as Speaker of the House after he capitulated to the petulant Nazi dweeb faction of the GOP. It is a bit of a relief to know they finally put country over party, until you realize just how country they're going. Real country. All right, guys. Super country. Don't want that kind of treat. Diamond of the Trump-loving duo Diamond and Silk has died of unknown causes. Her death is a tragedy for her family, but mostly Trump, since single-handedly her death reduced his black vote by about 7%, which is fittingly the same percent of times that he answered her phone calls. So take that, Trump. R.I.P. Diamond. 2 men in California accidentally lit themselves on fire while trying to burn down an immigrant services center. Now, ironically, that center helps immigrants file their taxes, which is really funny to be against and mad at that. Being like, I hate immigrants who are funding the emergency room that I'm currently getting my burns treated in. Idiots. Prince Harry has come out with a book in which he said that his brother, Prince William, physically attacked him during an argument and that he admitted to also killing 25 Afghans while he was in the military. Apparently, they were all just talking shit about Meghan Markle, and that's actually how the Afghan war was continued. That's what the surge was about, was talking shit about Meghan Markle. Anyway, buy the great man's book. Buy this murderous, wonderful man's book. For everything else, this is The Week Where. This was the week where the Trump of the tropics inspired his very own January 6th wannabe coup. Again, a Facebook radicalized coup without the backing of the military. In fact, just a bunch of dudes in green and yellow. Yes, this all happened in Brazil. We're talking about mass demonstrations, thousands of people outside of the capital, Brasilia, and the parliament there. It was a Sunday, so nobody was home, which again gives me a lot of vibes when like we used to protest the war on the weekends and we were like, man, this would have been way cooler if we were downtown and like Wall Street bros were trying to get to Wall Street, but they're not there. And so there's just like random tourists who are like, where is the Abercrombie and Fitch? And you're like, stop the war, anyway. But so yes, this was very much a replica of what happened on January 6th here in the United States. Couple of clips for you in case you missed it. Here is just a bunch of them beating up a cop on horseback. I'm sure that horse is fine. That's just great. That horse.
I thought that was a video of why the show Luck on HBO was canceled.
Is that about a horse?
Oh yeah, it was about some horses, and there was some like horse peril on set allegedly.
Horse peril. Oh my god, that's really funny. Justice for that horse. Like I feel like horses don't have. Anyway, the point is that's fucked up. Usually when I see mounted police, we do the like get those animals off those horses chants. But yes, that was one thing. Then here's a dude just holding the Constitution. That's fun. Okay, I didn't add that music, but that's dope. That's the Constitution. Sorry, and that is a man holding it up. So 1,500 Bolsonaro supporters have been arrested, and their little insurrection has been cleared. Lula da Silva, the current president, has said that he will bring people to justice who were involved in this. And even Bolsonaro himself has said that this is not a way to protest, that these protests, this coup was illegal. However, he's also like, let's not be like the left was in 2013 and 2017. And in his tweet, he was basically like, stop this, but the left also does it. So
this is my problem. I think he's inciting it, right? With his subliminal messaging, because he's in Orlando now. And we all know that you only go to Disney World after you win a competition, right? So what he's signaling by going to Orlando is like, I'm the victor here. So you do what you will. I think it is. I think he's being disingenuous.
Absolutely. Right. He's walking around. They're like, yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. That's the kind of like victors go to Mar-a-Lago, only winners That's
Mhm.
what it says at the entrance of Mar-a-Lago. Only winners. And he has been in Mar-a-Lago. He's been walking around Orlando. As Josh said, he's been eating KFC, which might be the reason why apparently he is now back in the hospital for some stomach issues. Which is like, yeah, dude, lay off the fast food when you're
It is
trying to avoid extradition.
look, he's gonna end up returning to Brazil once he gets the American healthcare bills. He is not gonna want to stick around for that. There's no way he acquired coverage in those few days.
No, he's I literally can't stay here. He's going to become an ally in that. So Biden is, also put out a statement that said, we support Lula da Silva and the rightful winner of the election, which is good and a step in the right direction for a country that, 50-50 lately on which coups in Latin America it's into and which coups is not into. If you're in Venezuela, neighboring Venezuela, they would be on the side of, Guaido, although less so now that they need a bunch of oil from Maduro. But this is, it's, to me, it's really chilling. It's funny, again, like January 6th was a little bit funny, but it's also really chilling because you see how deluded these folks are. Like that, we imagine the delusion of MAGA, and yeah, there's stupidity, but there's mostly delusion. There's mostly misinformation. And then you have Bolsonaro, and it's the same exact playbook. And in fact, he is meeting right now with Steve Bannon and Stephen Miller. The Steves are on the case to try to advise him on the way forward. And Steve Bannon's tweeting things like, the freedom fighters in Brazil and shit like this. And you're like, there is no way forward, man. You lost. You lost, and now you're in the hospital. Get your stomach fixed. Grab a kombucha, and also you should be extradited back home. And for example, Joaquin Castro and other, I believe Ilhan Omar and other representatives are like, yeah, it's great that we support Lula da Silva and the rightful winner of this election, but what could we be doing to extradite someone who clearly incited a riot a la Trump here in this country,
Mhm.
extradite him back to his country?
Yeah. I mean, it's really bizarre that he's just hanging out in Florida. And what gets to me the most is the people that like the snobs that will be like, "Oh, actually, this international coup, it's better than the American one." It's like the ours is like the Steve Carell version of The Office. Theirs is like the Ricky
The
Gervais one.
original.
I just think it's going to be I just think it's going to be snobbery.
Oh, yeah. First of all, I am a little bit of an office snob, and I definitely think that ours is, if you're doing comparisons, ours is the British office.
Our
Um,
coup.
our coup. But then again, our coup might have been longer than theirs,
Oh,
so
sure. Yeah.
it might be
I
more the
mean, we don't know
American.
how many seasons this thing is going to go on now that the Republicans are in control of the House.
Oh, yeah, it'll keep going. I mean, that's and this is the thing, I will be curious to see what kind of whether or not people in the Brazilian parliament are as supportive of these kinds of coup mongers as people in our current government are. I mean, the reason, we sort of scratch our heads 2 years on why there hasn't been accountability for January 6th, and it's very obvious, and it's because you saw it this week. There is a faction of the Republican Party that absolutely aided and abetted, and they have the power. So you're not going to investigate yourself. This is the grand, yeah. We're all looking for the person who did this, but it's
Mhm.
us. And, we're proudly in our hot dog suit. Here we are. We're going to be running the government in our hot dog suit and destroying the government from our hot dog suit. Meanwhile, asking, who the hell did this? So yeah, it's just over and over and over again. But I do think it is cute that the people who hate globalists, right? Steve Bannon, the globalists are taking over. How dare you? No, they fucking love globalism so long as it's authoritarian, violent, politically violent globalism. They like it in Hungary with Viktor Orban. They like it in Brazil. They like it in the Philippines. They like it anywhere, so long as it's not some kind of internationalism working together, EU type shit, green energy, anything like
Right.
that.
I mean, Jews, right? Which is
I.e., Jews.
it's such
Yes.
a weird thing. Globalist is such a weird slur for Jews because it's like, I know Jews that won't even go 10 miles outside of New York City limits. It's like we're the least global people in so many ways.
That's very funny.
Yeah, I know. Look, I know some so-called globalists that you couldn't even get to go to Queens on the weekend.
Yeah. Globalists, my allergies. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, seriously.
The humidity in Brazil, really? Um,
Absolutely.
oh God. Well, so there you have it. There is also an image. We don't have it, but y'all need to know that there was an imitation of the QAnon shaman, but the Brazilian version. They had everything. They had everything. They had the QAnon. My question is, was there a woman with the piano key scarf crying, "Isn't it an insurrection?" Wait, I think we have it. There we go. There he is.
Wow.
Ew. Obrigado. Sorry, that's all I speak of Portuguese.
I like that. Look, see, this is why our coup has the superior aesthetic value. Is
Oh
that
yeah?
this guy has tattoos? The other guy just painted his chest like he's going to a football game, right? He's not serious about
Totally.
that. About the coup or the Q.
He's not committed at all.
Yeah, that's
Um
what I think. You get those tattoos or bust.
yeah, exactly. What are you two afraid? God, that is so funny. That is so oh, these guys are gonna do like a little
Commit.
meetup.
Yeah, bro. Oh, what was there a soccer match that I was unaware of?
I
Okay.
know. Well, what's so funny is that, and what's fucked up is that if you're a fan of the Brazilian soccer team, you can't really wear the colors anymore because they've now been co-opted by the Bolsonaros, the
Oh, I didn't know
Bolsonaristas,
that.
whatever. Yeah, which is weird. I mean, it makes sense, you know, it's a little bit like um when I feel what I feel when I go, I've gone to like a US men's soccer game and worn I think I wore a red, white, and blue hat. It did say Bernie on it, so there was a little bit
Mhm.
of, but like it was back when it was 2016. But I was like, I would never wear red, white, and blue generally, you
Right.
know.
Well, it's such a loaded thing, right? To be like, look, this is just about the game. This isn't like a greater nationalism.
Right. Right, right,
These are
right.
just the colors of the team, right, on the field.
Exactly, exactly. No MAGA, hashtag no MAGA, I'm just this is I
Mhm.
support my country in this one
Right,
instance. Anyway,
we've got to divorce the flag from the team. We got to get them some just general aesthetics. I'm from Boston. I'd wear Lakers colors. I think that would be a nice that purple and gold. That really pops.
but you can't or you can?
I'm saying I would just
Y
because it gives a little distance from ultra nationalism through sports.
I like that, I like that. We should adopt all Lakers colors but you mean, like, USA, but it's just purple and gold.
Yeah, it
Um
means USA sports, right?
Yeah.
I feel like when you root for a team, you're not like rooting for the municipal government of that where the team is from.
Why not?
Yeah.
Um, all right, let's move on to our, second story here. Jesus Christ. This was the week where Matt Schlapp, the top Republican, who is the head of CPAC, I believe, and head of we'll get into what he is, the American Conservative something, 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 something. I don't actually care. But
Mhm.
he's a conservative leader, and he's a former ally or current ally of Donald Trump. He's been
He
accused
is an
of
ally.
he's an ally. He was
People,
literally at
he's an ally.
Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, he's a
You
fucking
really have
ally.
to specify, like you did, what you're an ally of, because just ally doesn't cut it anymore.
He is an ally of Donald Trump.
Mhm.
He um has been accused by a staffer of the Senate campaign of Herschel Walker, right? The failed Georgia Senate campaign, um, of groping him and unwantedly in October. And the staffer actually, we have audio of him recording himself right after the incident happened. But here is what he told NBC. He said he reached between my legs and fondled me, the former Walker staffer told NBC News in a telephone interview Thursday night. To my shame, I didn't say anything to stop Schlapp. NBC News is withholding the staffer's name at his request because he fears the allegations against a powerful Republican could harm his own career in GOP politics. In other words, the guy still wants to somehow work in the GOP politics, but still. So what happened was he had gone out to have some drinks with Matt Schlapp. Schlapp basically eventually tries to make a move on him. This guy's driving Schlapp around. He's effectively his chauffeur, and he while he is driving him, This is, I believe, back from the second bar, from Manuel's Tavern to the Hilton Garden Inn there at the Atlanta airport. He literally had his hands on me, he said in a video recorded early in the morning of October 20th, just a couple of hours after the alleged incident. Matt Schlapp of CPAC grabbed my junk and pummeled it at length. You don't want to hear that. You don't want to hear that and CPAC in the same sentence. The staffer did not post the video publicly, but shared it with NBC News. Let's see if we can play a little bit of this. Here is him. He's like, he's shaken. He's upset. You can kind of hear him like maybe crying a little bit. So anyway, just a trigger warning. It's upsetting and it's enraging.
And then the next thing I know, in the course of that ride, he is reaching over and grabbing my junk in a protracted manner along the entire ride. And to my shame, I did not say no or stop, but God knows it was not a wanted advance. Here is just my account for the nights of October 18th into 19th into the 20th, just happening. And here I'm supposed to pick this mother up in the morning and just sit there and pretend like nothing happened.
So he says he's supposed to pick him up in the morning, this motherfucker up in the morning. And what had actually happened is he called a supervisor, and he was immediately taken off of that detail and that job. So that's good. There's at least some hope for some people in the campaign. But why does this matter? Who is Schlapp? And what power does he wield? And why hasn't he stepped down? So he's the chairman of the American Conservative Union, that's it, and is married to former Trump White House aide Mercedes Schlapp. His organization hosts the Conservative Political Action Conference, a crucial proving ground for Republican presidential hopefuls. Now, the American Conservative Union did respond to these allegations. You can imagine what they said. They said, "We stand squarely behind Matt Schlapp. The ACU board of directors has full confidence in his leadership of the organization. We both have known Matt and his wife Mercedes for decades. We know Matt Schlapp's heart and his character, and we believe this latest attempt at character assassination is false. Unfortunately, the left, capital L, and its note takers in the media routinely choose to scorch the earth in their quest to cancel those with whom they disagree, whether it involves conservative judicial nominees or good people like Matt Schlapp. They will sink to any depth to destroy them and their families." Except it wasn't anyone from the left. It was someone on your fucking campaign who wanted to be there. Imagine Josh wanting to work on the Herschel Walker campaign. Imagine how hard that is anyway. And then you got creepo Matt Schlapp after you.
Yeah, it's really gross. I don't have much to say about it. It's obviously Matt Schlapp there's just this additional dimension to what a creep we already knew he was. And it's unfortunate that people were hurt, and that's what uncovered it. It's like a real, just because someone else is working on the abhorrent Herschel Walker campaign, I'm not rooting for them to be sexually assaulted. But it is like, man, it's just so gross. It's like, I don't know. It's like Matt Schlapp's job is already to like piss all over everything, and now you're like, oh, and he shits. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just like another way that he's loathsome and reprehensible.
Absolutely. And I just like, at least someone on the staff, and Max Berger, our guest, is in the waiting room saying, shit is fucked up when the Walker campaign are the good guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point. Stay backstage, Max. All right. You just stay there. No, but it's true. It is like, at least he was listened to, this one staffer. It's sad he feels like he has to conceal his name, obviously, because he wants to still work in politics. I just want to remind everyone that this is the party that continually talks about family values. I mean, they really have dropped that, but now they're talking about groomers. They're going after the LGBTQ plus community time and again. They're allowing people to target drag shows. They're talking about, they're banning books for having any kind of reference or being written by gay people. It is so insane. And yet it is the biggest look in the mirror projection because it's this kind of shit with Matt Schlapp. And like, look, I don't care that it was a male staffer, but for a homophobic ass party, let's be real. This is not just sexual assault. It is also same-sex sexual assault, right? It doesn't matter to me because I don't give a shit, but it should, like, you guys are the ones who are super homophobic. Does that matter at all? Right? The other thing I just want to point out, this is not the first time. Late last year in April, and this is a story that flew under the radar, but a 29-year-old who works with the RNC named Ruben Verastegi, he was sentenced to 12 years for child pornography. This guy was working right alongside with Ronna McDaniels and whomever. 12 years for child pornography. And like suddenly we're grilling why am I blanking on our new justice's name? God damn it. Ketanji Brown Jackson. We're grilling Justice Jackson for letting like child pornographers off easy or something, right? Your own goddamn party has been doing this. So anyway, let's leave it at that. Any final words, Josh?
It seems bad. I think this person should get out of politics, both because it seems safer to not associate with the people in the Republican Party, and I think we'd all be better off with fewer people working for Herschel Walker.
Indeed. I mean, sometimes you'd think you need more support, but probably maybe just let the man retire. Just let him retire. No more politics for you, Hershey.
Mm-hmm.
No more. All right. You guys, we got to jump into the sitch. What you know about Sam Bankman-Fried? What you know about crypto PACs, the two worst words combined together? This is the sitch. And joining me for the sitch, longtime progressive organizer and co-founder of If Not Now and Momentum. He's worked for Cory Bush, Elizabeth Warren, and Justice Democrats. Please welcome Max Berger.
Hi, everyone. How's it going?
So good to have you here, Max.
It's truly a pleasure.
You've worked on the other side of the aisle, I guess, on campaigns. Have you met someone like this staffer? I mean, this poor staffer. I just want to get your thoughts.
Oh,
Why
yeah.
the hell would you still want to work in conservative politics?
Well, people get into politics for a lot of different reasons, but most of the people that I've met, even whom I disagree with on, the kind of what we're trying to accomplish in politics, do genuinely really believe in their bullshit,
Yeah.
And so people, feel dedicated to what motivated them to get into it. And I know folks on our side who have had terrible experiences, not quite to this extent, but, really difficult situations that people have had to live through. And they persevere. And, you do that for the things that you care most about and that you believe in.
Yes.
I think it's hard when you learn that the people that you thought were supposed to believe in the same things don't actually. So I have to imagine that that's one of the hardest things to, for the staffer to experience, is to see that this guy who, as you say, like claims to represent family values and, is misrepresenting who he is in a really big way. And I think, when people are famous, that can be much more painful because you see them all over the place portraying themselves one way, and then that they're not that way. So I think it takes a lot of courage.
And it's absolutely, and I don't mean to downplay that courage. I think that, we have to defend, it's the same way that, like we should defend representation in the U.S. military, even though I disagree largely with a lot of what the U.S. military does. I don't believe in repealing the don't ask, don't tell. or like having, reinstating Don't Ask, Don't Tell and all that shit. But, it's the same thing. It's like if the industry of conservative politics should still be a safe place, even though I disagree largely with the goals of what you're trying to do.
You should be able to call other people a groomer without being sexually assaulted. Absolutely. I think we could all agree.
There you go. There you go. That's exactly right. That is exactly right.
Yeah.
But Max, you've been doing some incredible writing and work around this Sam Bankman-Fried like bust, right? His FTX cryptocurrency, which crashed in November of last year. I'm going to go over a little bit of it.
Sure.
He lost $14 billion. He's been indicted on 2 counts of wire fraud and 6 conspiracy counts: money laundering, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, and securities fraud. And he was released on $250 million bail at Christmas. And the reason it's interesting and sort of matters is not just another crypto bro, a thing that went under. I mean, it was a huge loss of money, but his political contributions and the fact that so many, both Republicans and specifically Democrats, were recipients of this money is why I think it's of particular interest to us. When I heard the phrase crypto super PAC, I wanted to tear my hair out and gouge my eyes out at the same time. Why did he even donate to political campaigns? Who accepted that money? And why does this matter to us?
Yeah. So I think that's really helpful, I think, to step back a little bit, because that hasn't so much made it into the coverage. Like, why is this guy giving so much money? And I think that the thing that's interesting about Bankman-Fried, unlike a lot of the other crypto bros who really do believe in a lot of this rhetoric around not creating a new financial system outside of government control, and so not wanting regulations, even ones that potentially would be beneficial to crypto. Bankman-Fried is like, we need to go legit, right? He's almost like, think about a mafia boss who's like, look, I get that this money that I'm making is through essentially crime, but I'm going to figure out how to take that money and get it to be a legitimate business one day. So that's how I understand the Bankman-Fried scheme. And part of what that means is, if you really trace out the logic of what he was trying to accomplish, was to eventually make crypto too big to fail, right? Like he wanted to pass regulations that would have eventually given them access to the Fed master account window. So essentially giving them the same access to being guaranteed by the Federal Reserve that if they suffer huge losses, that they could essentially borrow as much money as they want limitlessly. That was one of his goals.
So he wanted, because you imagine crypto and you think about crypto lobbying, and you imagine they're all lobbying to avoid regulations. You're saying he wanted to go legit with this.
Yes. And he was kind of unusual. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, so if he wanted to be able to have unlimited loans, essentially, for crypto, right, to be kind of kept afloat the way banks are in times of crisis, and then allegedly he was just kind of taking money from his own investors and pumping it into crypto. So you could say he was simply being the change he wanted to see in the world.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really beautiful, actually. He's living his own values.
Okay,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And he was pretty open about this stuff. Like, there's a clip of him going on what's it called, Mad Money, and saying essentially what I said. And yeah, so they were trying to get big investors on board and kind of take crypto mainstream, even more mainstream, to the point where banks and stuff could get involved. And then he would be the real beneficiary of that, as the kind of centerpiece of the market in holding one of the exchanges. So that was sort of his long-term play. And it's a very traditional donor strategy in a certain way, where he's like giving to Republicans and Democrats in the same way like the big banks do, to make sure that they're kind of all backing him up. And he got a lot farther on this. I mean, this stuff starts to get pretty wonky, so I won't bore listeners with the details, but like, they got a lot farther on this stuff than you might think. Like, you might think that the crypto stuff is still just a bunch of cranks or whatever, but a lot of legislators took it very seriously. And the story that we heard was he was this big donor to Democrats. What came out, as he was getting in more and more legal trouble, was that he said this, was that he actually gave as much money to Republicans as he did to Democrats, but it was just so dark, as some of it was likely illegal. So it hasn't shown up on kind of FEC reports and stuff. So turns out he was giving equally to both parties. But what I found in doing this investigation, and part of why I wanted to do it, was because so much of the coverage was like, oh, look at this Democratic donor who's like actually on the take. And you see like Elon Musk like shit posting about how he's not going to get held accountable because he's given all this money to Democrats. So I went in and I looked and I was like, well, who's he really giving to in the Democratic Party? Like, what's he actually doing with that money? And, you know, as somebody who's previously worked for Justice Democrats and is friends with a lot of these progressive groups that are running these kind of more insurgent campaigns against the establishment, we were hearing anecdotally that they were involved in a lot of these races, that the Bankman-Fried PAC was involved in a lot of these races that pitted an establishment Democrat against the progressive.
Right.
And
on the side of the establishment.
On the side of the establishment, yeah. And so the major interest there, and I'm so grateful that it's majority Jewish representation to talk about this issue because it starts to get a little dicey, honestly. But the main interest that is funding the establishment side of those primaries in the Democratic Party at this point are AIPAC and AIPAC affiliated donors.
Right.
So, and that's a story that I've tracked closely because that's one of the issues that I've worked on in the past. So I just went and I just compared, I just did a spreadsheet of, okay, here's all the races that the pro-Israel groups have given to. We know they're trying to crush the left. Now, I'm just going to take a list of all the races that the crypto people have contributed to and compare it side by side.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, holy shit.
Same.
It's the same, it's really incredible. And if you look at the groups that Bankman-Fried was giving to that spent on those races, that's 75% of the money that he's giving to Democrats. So when we hear he's giving money to Democrats, it's not he's helping them defeat Republicans. He's giving money to centrist Democrats to help them defeat progressives. So that was that was the thing that I found.
And not on an ideological basis, right? Not even really for the reasons that AIPAC and other affiliated PACs are doing it, which is, you can't say anything or criticize Israel in any way or vote present on any vote for more funding for their military. But was it more of a play for, I'm going to bet that the centrist in this race will be more amenable to what I want to do with crypto?
I think so. I think that they were afraid, not wrongly, that, the AOCs of the world, if they were to become strongly anti-crypto, that would undermine their ability to make this just a really bipartisan issue that there wasn't significant opposition on. And the part that I hope will be reported more, because I am not a reporter. I'm just, I'm an organizer, activist type. So this was all kind of new to me, and I put it together so that more journalists would dig into it more. And I think one of the things that bears the most that really should be looked into more is the role that Mark Mellman, who is sort of the leading operative of the DMFI, which is Democratic Majority for Israel, which is the main sort of anti-progressive group now,
right,
that the pro-Israel lobby is using to defeat Justice Dems. The role that he played in convincing SBF to contribute in this way, because if you actually go and look at the 5 groups that are at the center of this effort, what I call the injustice Democrats, because they're countering the justice Democrats, that Mark Mellman, if you go into the FEC, you can see he gets money from each of those groups, right? And those groups are donating money to each other. So it really starts to look not just like, oh, these guys just happen to end up on the same races, like because they sort of have similar ideological interests. It starts to look like, holy shit, this was a play. Like this was a $70 million operation that this one guy was running that was about convincing rich people that we can crush, that we can keep bartenders and principals and activists from getting to Congress, and you should give me the money to do that.
Right. And there is an ideological strain in this, and I know that there were even some progressives or even self-identified socialists that got tied up in the SBF stuff. But people who I didn't really know, but who are very well known in the Beltway, and the Democrat internal discussions. Yeah.
Sean McElwee is the guy sort of at the top of the list here. I think Sean really fucked up. I mean, again, this is another place where I think there needs to be a lot more reporting, because some of what I'm about to say is speculation. Some of it I've learned more since I published it. disappointed in people. But, you know, I think essentially that was some of that stuff is extortion. Or that's a legal term. I don't know if there were any crimes that were committed. A level of, you know, progressives being told that if they didn't change their position on crypto in Israel, that there would be significant amounts of money spent against them. And if they were willing to toe the line, that money wouldn't be spent. I'm quite sure that happened in certain races. I don't want to talk more about it, if I'm being honest. But they tried to muddy the waters. And again, I think that was part of their strategy, was like, let's make this not something that progressives are like up in arms about and screaming about. And the way that they did that was going to folks and saying, look, we're going to make you an offer that you probably don't want to refuse.
And that's why they sort of like worked with Sean McElwee, you're saying, and like got.
I think there was some report. Was this your report? I think it was someone else, maybe in New York Magazine, about this facet of it specifically recently.
Yeah. I talked to David. Dave Friedlander wrote a really great piece that was looking into. This is part of how I got into it too, was because I was talking to Dave for his piece, and I was like, "There's a whole other story here that if you want to try to understand why Sean was doing this, basically it was like the pro-Israel people had been doing this for 2 or 3 years now. They started it last cycle, and then they super ramped up the amount of giving they were doing this cycle. And I think there were some people on the progressive side who were like, look, we can't defeat, if the crypto folks and the Israel folks get together and just,
we're screwed.
We're screwed. So what we need to do is figure out how to cut a deal with the crypto people. And so they thought they were being, you could question whether that was a good idea or not. Like, some of them, I think, are not like bad, corrupt people. They thought they were doing a good thing. I think they went too far and they fucked up in some cases, but I don't think that's like a totally deranged viewpoint, you know? But
yeah, a wall of money is coming at you. Meanwhile, Republicans have no qualms accepting both of those buckets of money.
It's a little ironic to me that crypto donors could ironically be called the Isn't Real lobby.
Right. Yeah.
I was trying to find a way to be like, just because like this anyway, but you found it.
Truly, it's all my brain does all day.
Isn't real, and the Israel
is a disease,
lobby.
Not a skill.
Exactly. If you're trying to legitimize your state, don't partner with the Isn't Real lobby.
With the Isn't Real lobby.
Yep. Can I ask you, Max, what you like? I've heard this term, and this is our producer Paige brought it to my attention. This idea of effective altruism and what these dudes like believe, like what the hell that is. How is it different than philanthropy? It's like I guess their guiding principle for why they are donating all this money.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's one of these things that reporters love talking about, and it is a really interesting subject, like on its own. Like, as a former, you know, dabbler in philosophy, like it's like a fun thing to talk about. It's like utilitarianism and blah blah blah. So it's like, yeah, it's a form of long-termism where they're trying to make sure that the money that they're donating is actually maximally effective at minimizing suffering for the greatest number of people, and being much more rigorous than most philanthropists are in that pursuit. Which, like, on some level, you're like, yeah, I mean, who's against that, right? Bankman-Fried ends up with this really weird version of it, where he's essentially saying, like, even if I'm money laundering, if I spend my money on things like vaccine, you know, helping spread vaccines, yeah, and like ending suffering amongst animals, that like actually I'm totally justified in that calculus. And there are moral philosophers, of which his parents are of the tradition, that would agree with him. You know, I don't think. The conversation has sort of been like, is that why he did this then? And it's like, no. like that's a fun conversation, you know what I mean? Like, like by all means, like, let's debate
like
that.
If he's like it's the same as him being like, I was just money laundering so I could you know, investigate if God could make a rock so big that even God couldn't lift it. Like, it's just a thought experiment that was happening parallel.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I think, and it is sad. Some of the people in that community are really hurt right now because they, you know, Bankman-Fried was the most famous person, and so now they all look like assholes because his ideas are, you know, their ideas are associated with him. So I can't
also, if you were in the Bahamas, like, you know, and you were in a weird polycule like sort of orgy with him, which was going on, that is extra embarrassing.
People vet your orgies. I don't know how many times I have to say it.
Are you a money launderer? Yes or no? Okay, we can sleep together. God.
Yeah, rough times for the polycool.
Yeah, real rough times, and just the Bahamas generally. But so what the hell now? Like, what happens? Do we learn anything from this and the future of crypto, or does it just sort of all get like, oh, don't be an SBF and boop-a-doo, we're gonna keep accepting crypto money, keep, either not
Who
regulating or
accepts
regulating
crypto
it.
money?
A lot of people. I mean, so that's part of what, I think it's part of this for me is also like kind of shining a light on the progressives who I think like mistakenly or stupidly went along with some of this stuff.
Sure.
But if we're really looking at who is doing this stuff, it is the establishment of the Democratic Party and
Yes.
and the Republicans, and they have accepted the amount of money that crypto spent on lobbying last year was more than the defense industry.
Jesus Christ.
Yes, I'm sorry. What I mean is like stores don't accept crypto. You know what I mean? Like it's only used as like a speculative investment and like greasing wheels politically and then like buying illicit substances, right?
Yeah, including politicians. You can't take it to 7-Eleven, but you can take it to which is
Kirsten
like Gillibrand.
That's such
all
a
the
weird
Pelosi
kind
NFTs.
That's such a weird currency, right? Where you're like, oh no, this is only for graft. Like you're like, oh, okay, sorry.
Right. It's actually just monopoly money.
It's like if there could be $1,000 bill with Bernie Madoff's face on it that you could only spend for bribes.
Exactly.
Like, no, you can't buy a coat with that. This is for
this is for buying politicians.
Exactly.
I just again, I'm gonna get this in there, but an NFT of Nancy Pelosi's fridge of ice cream or like of Mitch McConnell's gullet, like all of these things would be great. But so what happens now then? You were making a point, Max.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's good. I mean, I think that's I don't know. I've spoken with some journalists on this beat and tried to get people to cover the kind of corruption going on here a little bit more with the expectation that we really do need to like drive a stake through the heart of this thing. And I've heard a lot of people kind of demur because they think that it's just dead. And I am too pessimistic, I think, on that front. I mean, previous to the SBF collapse, when I spoke to kind of the journalists who cover the crypto beat, they felt very convinced that we were just totally fucked. Like that there was no stopping it. It was relentless. Like it was going to go mainstream. It had too much political support and it had too much velocity in the public. I think we're at this kind of precarious, but in a way hopeful moment in which it could just, disappear from the face of the earth. And we should be so lucky because I think if it succeeds on its own terms, it will eventually become like subprime finance, which is basically what it is, And so the more that it becomes accepted, the more it becomes enmeshed in law, the more it gets government support, the more of a threat it is long term. So let's hope that it dies.
Especially at a time when it Bitcoin and other currencies are like their value is so fucked right now. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. It's really low. And in May, I remember last May we had Molly White, who also covers cryptocurrency. She's great.
Yeah, she's great. Yeah.
We had her on the show. Everyone should go back and listen to that episode. And she essentially called this. It was like, this is only, this is before the election, of course. We didn't talk about the political angle of it. But yeah, it would be something if in just every day, like the cryptocurrency, the value is completely down. And yet only in DC, as Josh is mentioning, is where it's like, this is magic money now. And you're like, no, wait, no, it's not real.
Right. And it's, I always feel like when I'm talking, because this is where I've been reading, I read Ed Zitron's newsletter, Where's Your Ed At? He writes a lot of great stuff about this sector. And I'm so skeptical of crypto. And when I say that, I don't mean that to like bolster the financial system we have. That's what it is, right? It's like, because people go, oh, well, do you love the stock market? You want to kiss it on the mouth and marry it? And it's like, no, that's not what I want. It's just like one thing at a time.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally. I mean, I was a occupied person.
Yeah.
That was like a lot of how I got my start in politics. And crypto was really the right-wing response to the financial crisis. Like there was the left-wing response, which was like Occupy, Bernie, etc. And then there was the right-wing response, which was like the problem with the level of corruption between the government and finance is to get government out and just let finance do like total control.
Finance, that's where people are making the ethical decisions.
Yeah,
exactly. And the guys, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask you something completely unrelated, but about Occupy. What were you gonna say, Max?
Well, we did, my most recent gig I was at Mark Perfect Union, which I helped start with Fast Shakir, which is a media organization. We made a video about this, and the people who started Bitcoin, I mean, we don't know exactly who, but the community that it came out of had some absolutely batshit crazy anarchist right-wing ideas that they were super into that like went along with the private money stuff, like assassination markets, so that they could murder politicians.
I love it. Oh, that's
like,
bad. I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
no, look, we've all seen, I mean, I watched the Anarchist or the Anarchapulco documentary on HBO. That was great and insane, and also like bolstered by crypto, and just a perfect encapsulation of who gets seduced. Again, it's like, your libertarianism is the rubber's hitting the road on your libertarianism,
right?
And it doesn't work.
Right. It feels like a financial system where wherever you look, like any person you talk to also has really strong age of consent ideas.
Yeah, right. Everyone is running from a charge. Like, let's just be real. Like, that's what they're doing, and they're all white. So they're like, in that documentary, there's like one woman who makes sense, and she happens to be black. And it's like, yeah, she was in it for the right reasons. It also happens to be the one black woman you have. Anyway, random. But okay, so you're saying this doesn't mean we're going to rein crypto PACs in, or it should, but it might not.
I think it really depends on how this gets covered and how it gets processed, because I don't think that the kind of establishment level of support for crypto has totally made news, you know? And so I think the like level of like naming and shaming that needs to happen around, the members of the Democratic Party who accepted this level of support and who helped co-author or co-sponsor bills. There were 3 major bills in the last session of Congress that were essentially written by crypto lobbyists, that had Democratic support from some powerful Democrats like Kirsten Gillibrand, Maxine Waters, for actually some of the same reasons that you named, Cory Booker, big booster of cryptocurrency, Richie Torres from New York. So, the fact that you two who follow this stuff really closely are like, oh, like that has not quite totally rippled through the system, that like those folks are, the Democrats have really, some Democrats have gotten behind this. I think it's,
but it makes perfect sense that it would fly under the radar. Why? Because mainstream news outlets, and I'm talking about CNN and MSNBC, what do they not want to cover? They don't want to talk about AIPAC at all. They don't want to talk about AIPAC money. They don't want to talk about progressives being tanked by that kind of money. And they don't want to at all, if a Democrat received a bunch of money from a random lobby, they won't talk about that either. And so they won't even, as you've done, do a little bit of extra digging and see, oh, a ton of Republicans have also accepted this money. So if you cover the story and stop looking at it just through a partisan lens, it is in fact a far bigger story than, left or right or Democrat or Republican. It is a much more pertinent and scary story, and we should be covering it. But no. It's sort of like, again, tinged, and we follow the right's narrative about it. And the right is not assuming responsibility for the fact that their own politicians also accepted these contributions. So and then it spirals out, and it's like, all right, well, no one's covering it now.
Right.
And I think it also, to kind of pull at this thread, not to sound super conspiratorial, but to pull at the thread of like who's allowed to give money to what and who does. If you pull at that, you kind of get to the point of like, oh, this money is a pernicious influence in politics, right? And so I think it's a tough thread to pull at, because then you have to start assigning value to like, okay, these people should be allowed to donate and these people shouldn't, or get to the point of like, oh, this is all worse than we're admitting right now.
Yeah. I think that's both of those are great. Like, the part that I've been able to generate the most interest amongst journalists around is the kind of progressive hypocrisy piece, right? There's a massive corruption scandal going on in which the Republican Party and the establishment is implicated in just taking money from the worst people and doing the worst shit. They're like, yeah, man, that's called politics. They're like, that's just Washington.
Tell me about the progressives.
That's not news, bro. That's just life, And you're like,
But tell me
news.
more about the progressives and how they threw down with them. Yeah.
Right.
That's
They're
a
like, oh, that's a
really
story. That's a story.
Right. Well, I mean,
No.
that's sometimes why, like, to flip it again, it's kind of why, like, when people talk about Republican hypocrisy, right? You're like, well, it's not hypocrisy. Their belief is what we do is our right to maintain power. And so,
Yeah.
and I think that is kind of true of like the idea of like, well, what we do is we solicit donations and then we have the money, not them, and that's fine. And so
Yeah.
I think that is not, it doesn't seem hypocritical when the system is like, yeah, of course, you need the money to thrive.
The Republican
Right.
Party is the party of it's okay when I do it. I did an entire Newsbroke episode, I remember. Just it's okay when I do it. That's their philosophy. It's okay when I do it. And you're like, all right, well then shit, man. If you don't even believe in hypocrisy, what are we talking about anymore?
Right. There's no,
Yeah.
it's unshameable. And I think that
Yeah.
is, and Max, I think you're saying like progressives are more shameable because I think they have
Because we
values
feel shame.
beyond,
Yeah.
yes, because right, the kind of human
Because we're
capacity
capable
to
of
understand
feeling shame.
wrongdoing rather than
Well,
just kind of a Nietzschean
Yeah.
will to power.
Right.
Totally. And actually, you know, I didn't want to talk about this, but I just want to briefly mention it's a perfect way to understand how the House Speaker vote went down and why when people say, oh, you know, Justice Dems and the left should do the exact same thing that the GOP did in holding out and withholding their votes from Speaker, that the answer is no, we should not. And that is not a winning strategy. It's because there is an amount of shame. There is an amount of understanding that you're holding up the function of government and holding up the ability to actually get anything done. Whereas Republicans don't care about
Which
getting
is-
anything done. They want to
Right.
tear it all down.
For Kevin McCarthy, his best case scenario is that he's in charge and the government is kneecapped and inefficient and doesn't serve the people. The second best case scenario is he's not in charge and all of those things happen.
Absolutely. It's just, who is going to reign over the ineptitude? And we forget about that, you know, that like, oh yeah, we have a little bit more principles and morals. And like, we do want to do something,
Right, well, it's
not
like-
just hold out for our own ideology. Like I'm going to hold out everything until everything is perfect. Like, no, you actually have to make that shit happen.
Right. It's a lot easier, like truly easier to burn something down when you don't care who builds the next thing or what that is. Right.
Totally.
When like the arson is when the arson is what you're there for, you're like,
Right.
yeah, burn it down. And it's much harder to do it when you're like, oh, then we have to do the work of making what's next better than what came before.
Yeah. One last thing on this. So as the Jewish caucus here could talk about, like, you know, it can be difficult sometimes to talk about this stuff without it becoming, you know, tied up with anti-Semitic tropes. And when I've written about this stuff, people are like, yeah, of course they all work together because they're Jews and they're lizard people and they control.
Even the
I'm like,
fake
no,
imaginary banks are in league with the Jews.
Yeah, right. And you're like, oh God, I got to delete this from my Substack. And the Republicans really preyed on this. Like,
of course they do.
Sorry, everyone,
the Republicans and the centrist Democrats prey on that shit. Yeah.
So the money that AIPAC is spending on these races, a huge percentage of it comes from pro-Trump billionaires. Okay. Yeah. And so I was talking to David Friedlander from this New York Mag piece, and we were trying to figure out why did they do that? And the answer is, well, you know, then you could be accused of being anti-Semitic if you criticize AIPAC. So why don't they, you know, why don't the pro-Trump billionaires give money through some other channel? It's like, well, they don't have that cover, right? So they know that if they do it through AIPAC, that they have that accusation, that they can say that if you're criticizing them, then you're being anti-Semitic.
Right.
And they in fact did this. So Pramila Jayapal, sorry, this is a little bit of but Pramila Jayapal was like, please, we need an agreement that there's no more super PAC money going into these primaries. And the head of the Anti-Defamation League, which is supposed to be like the Jewish NAACP, right? Like, it's a time of anti-Semitism. This shit is not a fucking joke, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I got family in Pittsburgh. Like,
yeah,
this is not a joke. The head of the ADL accuses Pramila of being anti-Semitic for criticizing AIPAC for spending money in a Democratic primary. And I'm like,
But AIPAC
on,
has jumped the shark. By the way, they're having their annual meeting right now. And love it. No, it's jumped the shark. Everyone knows who they actually stand for. Everyone's seen them support the Insurrectionist Freedom Caucus. We know it's, and especially on this show, like there is not no one gets it twisted. No one conflates anti-Semitism with the Israeli lobby. It's just with criticizing the Israeli lobby. There is a wide gulf there, and it's very, very clear. There's a settlement named after Trump. Netanyahu was the very first person to call Donald Trump and congratulate him. Stop. He is a fucking fascist. They love each other. Globalism is the fascism. That's what it really is. Anyway, Max Berger, can you stay on for one final segment? Because it's fun, and I feel like you will crush it. And now you can't say no, because I want to know. We have one final segment, and this one I'm calling the Santos Syndrome. You guys have heard of imposter syndrome. It's when you don't feel like you're good enough, and so you sort of like undersell yourself and whatnot. You don't ask for that raise. But what if you did the opposite? What if you had the Santos Syndrome? The George Santos Syndrome. That's right. Congressman of New York got sworn in, lied about everything. His mom dying on 9/11 was the one that I somehow missed, but I love that. And he was like, well, yeah, but in 2016, but still on 9/11. But I don't know what his excuse was. 9/11, 2016, the day that will live in infamy.
It was like 2 months before the election. People were very stressed out.
Honestly. And that he was a property owner, that he was in finance,
that he was Jewish.
Jewish.
That was one of my favorite. That was classic.
Yeah.
But he was raised, guys. Now you guys just tell me, but he was raised Catholic, but his grandma told him stories about being Jewish. Is that a thing? No. Is that a thing ever? Have you ever heard a Jew say that? Well, I was raised Catholic, but actually, what?
I mean, actually, when you ask it that way, the answer is kind of. But the way that he said it, the way that he said, what came out eventually was that even it was all made up. And he was like, I never said I was Jewish. I said I was Jewish. And I'm like, that is, you got to appreciate the chutzpah.
You got to throw a second ish on there. You've got to say Jewish-ish. The Jewish, that's the same.
Mm-hmm. That's
You've got to say Jewish-ish.
Yeah. Jewish-ish.
The hyphen doesn't, don't play punctuation games with me, Santos.
But anyway, so, you got to hand it to him. He sat there. He was there during the vote. He was next to Boebert and Matt Gaetz, and he was getting sworn in with a little sweater vest on or whatever he had, a little tie. And so I want to know, guys, have you ever lied to get a job? This is Santos Syndrome. Santos Syndrome. Anyway, it's fine. Guy, first of all, I always lie and say I'm very proficient in Microsoft Excel, but that is such a cliche at this point, and yet I have done that multiple times.
When I say that, I mean Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Extra Large, like big and tall Microsoft.
Yeah,
so that is not a lie when I say that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I put my fonts huge. I got huge fonts.
Mike, I wouldn't know my way around a PC in this day and age. I've been thinking about maybe I should get a PC. No idea. Probably have no idea how to operate a PC. Not a gamer. I wish I remembered. Let's see. What else have I? I've definitely said before I was fluent in Spanish. I think I lied about being fluent in Spanish, but I was fluent-ish, Spanish-ish. Mm-hmm. And what else have I completely ripped my resume for us being a server off of my friend who was a server, because being a server, you're in a catch-22 nightmare. You can't get any experience as a server without having you can't get a job at a restaurant without having worked at a restaurant. You can't work at a restaurant without having, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Absolutely.
However it makes sense. It made sense. Anyway, I was a terrible waitress.
Hard to believe.
Every time I've lied, I think it's always been in comedy context. So this would be years ago, and they would go, "Can you do an hour? Like, can you come to the show and do an hour of stand up?" And I would go, "Totally, I have that many jokes." And then, like you were saying, busted immediately, because it's not like an office job where you can like Google it and kind of like ask this, like, how
reading
stuff
from
works.
a joke book.
Yes, right, exactly, right. 40 minutes in, I'm just like, oh, what else? Why'd that chicken cross the road, folks? And so that was truly just like and it's like you said, when you don't have the experience, right, and you like kind of get your way into where a job that you're like immediately facing the public, you like really get your ass handed to you quickly.
But Josh, first of all, we know what headliners do. They do 40 minutes of crowd work, bad crowd work, 20 minutes of material.
Mm-hmm.
So you just, that's the fluff.
Yes, that's what I mean. That for sure.
That's the padding. Let's be real.
I skated by. I'm doing okay now. But those. I mean, it is like one of those things where like the person I was really hurting was myself, because I had to be the one standing up there just like eating shit.
Dude.
And the audience maybe a little.
And the audience. Yeah, but like plenty of people who have the hour are still not a good.
They survive.
Exactly. I bet it wasn't bad. I bet it was great. I would have loved to watch Josh Gondleman try to fill an hour. And obviously everyone needs to go check out the actual hour, the special that he has. But I feel like you would just be very sweet.
Yeah, I tried.
I'd be like, oh, this is great. I love
He's trying
this guy.
Up there.
It's just
a
the
lot
opposite
of people being like, I'm glad this isn't my son when I started.
That's so specific.
Yeah, very specific. Well, I was really young, and I would do sometimes Jewish gigs where people would look at me like, "Oh, this is why I told my kids to go into law and medicine, because of this specific person is the cautionary tale."
Mm-hmm. Max, what have you said? What's your Santos syndrome? What have you done?
My first like job in politics, I was 18 years old, and it was like a regional field manager, which basically you just like help other canvassers canvass. Mm-hmm. And I had done some canvassing, and I listed the year. It's a lie, but it said like the college I went to and like a year. Mm-hmm. It didn't say like graduated because I hadn't, because I was 18 years old and a freshman in college, and I got hired, and then I had to manage these canvassers, and they were like, please lie about your age. Like, do not tell these people that you are managing that you are 18 years old, because they will not listen to you. And I was like, noted. That's fine. I will continue.
So eventually, so you got to the job, and you're like still in school, and they're like, oh shit.
Yeah, they're like, we hired this child.
You're still hired.
I dropped out of school. But yeah, and the guy who hired me actually was Jeremy Bird, who ended up being later Obama's field person.
I wanted to know who that was, but I don't.
Didn't really do a great job of vetting back then.
Just putting the year that you were in college, that is the 9/11, but of what year exactly. Of resumes.
Didn't specify. So it worked.
Mostly for jobs, though, I do the opposite. The George Sand. First of all, I can write a great cover letter writer. But I do the opposite. Once in college, my college job, speaking of your college jobs, a lot less glamorous. Worked at a gym at the like store, which sells like, oh, here, you forgot your swim cap. Here you go. Whatever. Gym shorts. I definitely stole some gym shorts. But I went to
the cover letter said, definitely not going to steal gym shorts.
Totally won't steal from your little dinky store. Mm-hmm. But I said in the job interview, I was like verbatim, this is when I was like prime anti-capitalist. Francesca just got fucking woke as fuck. Like talk about 9/11. It had happened. And yes, I was like, what did America fucking do? No, we should not go to war. And I looked this woman and I was like, I just want a job where nobody tells me what to do. And she was like, oh, the shop. She was so like funny. Super mad. Like, I've got just the position. I'm like, hell yeah. Anyway, you guys.
Need someone who doesn't need to take direction and who will yell at other people.
Absolutely. I do not respect authority. Same as it ever was in my case. Josh Gondleman, Max Berger, so good to have you guys on the show. Max, where can people find you and follow your work?
You can find me at Substack at maxberger.substack.com or on Twitter at maxberger.
Hell yeah. Keeping the faith alive over there. Max, be very well. Please come back. So good to have you on. I can't believe I haven't. This is the first time.
Yeah.
This is a goddamn shame. You need to come back. Stay for the whole show next time. All right.
Feel shame.
Anytime.
That's the moral of the story.
There's the go. Yeah, you go. Not beyond shame. Take care. And Josh, where can people find you?
I also have a Substack. I write humorous pep talks every week. joshgondleman.substack.com. I have a special out called People Pleaser that is available. You can watch it now on, I think, Tubi for free. My website has tour dates, joshgondleman.com, and I'm at Josh Gondleman on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok now, let's say.
Catch Josh live, everybody, if you can. But in the meantime, watch his special. And hopefully I can see you in the bonus. 10 extra minutes on Afro Man. I'll see you there. Take care. And thank you guys for being here. Thanks for all of your support. Thank you for your super chats. Pitchforks Dragon said the music upgrade because she's fitting to be in the Bay on the 22nd. Yee. Yes, I am. ENC demanding the bookshelf tour. Rar Bear Dragon, too serious in this economy? Referring to the music. Exactly. Herium Bifidum says, no, Fran, you're not demonetized. Don't act like me. Some loser troll might flag the stream. Oh, true. You're not a loser troll. You just give a super chat. But, some people super chat to talk shit, which I think is insane. I mean, I'll take your money. Robert, thank you for your super chat saying, guys, I'm having plug trouble, and that's how babies get made. Wow. It's like, yeah, the wrong USB is how it all happened. Fun P says, placenta tea is super underrated. I'm reading the rest of this comment because you donated money, but otherwise I don't want to read this. Nothing beats it sashimi. Nope. Don't like that comment. Placenta sashimi style. Although I will say this, I totally looked at my placenta. I was like, could I see it, please? Could I see it? And then I looked at it. It's cool, man. It's like, it looks like a little thing that like the Matrix, like the little Matrix babies are made in. Anyway, and then Matt, my husband, did tummy time with the placenta, and then we said goodbye to it. Anyway, Jeremy Justice, thank you for your super chat. My mom worked a 16-hour day on a warehouse loading dock the day before she gave birth to my little sister. This was in 97. America's barely changed how it treats pregnant women in the workforce. Honestly, your mother is a fucking superhero, and I am sick of saying that because I hate that, like, when people go above and beyond and do things they should not be doing. It's like, oh my God, you're amazing. Yay, yes, queen. No. Nobody wants to yes, queen this. We want to get paid. We want to be restful. We want to bring new life into this world, bring all your stank asses into this world, and not put ourselves at risk. If and when we choose to be parents. That is right. Christian Hansen says Zuckerberg wanted his very own currency too, but Congress slammed that down. Yeah, I mean, they're like, we know you. We've seen your face. I recognize them bangs. Gatling Combo says they're trying to make pilots fly alone with no co-pilot. Yes, we talked about that last week. But again, the greed of the airline industry knows no bounds. Daniel Lee, he gave money to the opponents of a cohort progressive candidate I was part of last year. Daniel, thank you for being here. And yes, I know we're talking about Sam Bankman-Fried giving to Daniel's opponent. How dare you? Which is just like so insane. Big money doesn't usually get involved in primaries, so it was significant, absolutely significant. And I hope you're doing well, Daniel. And Fun P, thank you for the adorable picture of you and your little angel. So freaking cute. Yes, I posted a photo of me and Karina on YouTube. And with that, y'all, let us bring in the Mr. Kevin MacLeod, still making his appearance with the fart song. Thank you to the patrons at $10 or more. I don't have any this week, but I just want to thank Dr. Silverback again. Thank you to the big tippers, Abdul Kargbo, who likes my Greta impression. It's not that good. Thank you to the Twitch subs. Rar Bear Dragon gifting 1 month tier 1 sub to Gomez. Willie Gus for cheering 100 bits. Arlan2 for resubscribing at 1 month tier 1. Dory B subscribe for 1 month tier 1. Subscribe for 5 months. 5 months, my favorite Tuesday afternoon stream. Thanks for your humor and insights. Thank you. And Rar Bear Dragon also resubscribing. Thank you so much. And Mother of Griffins resubscribed 3 days ago. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you. Remember, we are here every Tuesday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. We stream Twitch and YouTube. Thanks to producer Paige, to Maximillien Inhoff, to Alexandra Ornes. Follow us on Twitter at Bitchuation Pod, TikTok at Franny Fio, and Instagram at Franny Fio. And remember, I do a show on Wednesdays on TYT called the Twitchuation Room, which is a very fun 1 hour, 2 to 3 p.m. Pacific, 5 to 6 Eastern, 6 to 7 Eastern. There we go. Hey, 5 to 6. I don't know time anymore. Anyway, fight the power. Fuck the patriarchy. Don't just bitch about it. Be about it.